Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric here with Iraq Veteran 8888. Today we've got another Gun Gripe episode for you, and today I've got a very special guest with me, Mr. Mark Novak. You probably know him from Anvil Gunsmithing, C&Rsenal. You've probably seen his mug on our channel a few times.
Howdy.
So we've been up here commandeering his gunsmithing area and coming to hang out a little bit, and we thought that we would talk a little bit today. You know, in the previous Gun Gripe, we discussed some things about, okay, preserve or restore, or, you know, the difference between cleaning a gun and restoring a gun.
Right.
But today, I think what we're going to touch on, and we were talking about this earlier, and it just is such a great gripe idea, is the whole collector's ethos. Like someone who thinks they're really collecting versus really just letting something go to pot.
Yeah.
Or, you know, how do collectors affect the market in terms of, you know, values? I mean, do people overpay? I mean, there's all these things that come to mind, right?
Yeah, a lot of the rules for collecting seem to have been formulated during the 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, when a 20-year-old A5 was a 20-year-old A5. Don't mess with it, you'll destroy its collector value. Okay, in 1950, I can almost see that. Flash forward, it's damn near 2020. Right? So it's 70 years past that, and now that A5 is getting on pretty close to 100 years old, and they're not making them anymore. There are only two kinds of guns in the world, in my opinion. There are guns that have been used and ones that haven't been used. That's not fired, unfired, used and unused. You can shoot a gun a couple of times, it's still pristine, throw it in a locker, put it away. But the minute Great Uncle Empty Frats walked out in a duck blind with it, that thing has been used. And now we're talking about it's no longer new. So what are we really collecting? Are we collecting how good it is or how bad it isn't yet? And that's kind of what's got me a little bit chapped here.
Yeah.
Is the fact that all the good stuff is gone. It's all in private collections already. The unused things, the things that are incredibly rare, the things that are in cosmoline, that have never been pulled out and still have the paper wrapped around them, that's all gone. All that's left out here, in my opinion, are things that have been used up to varying degrees. And the whole collector ethos of, oh my God, you might damage its collector value, is based on what? So that 5% gun, if I refinish it, it's worth half of what? Half of 100% or half of 5%? And you don't know. But the gun that's worth half of 100% can be taken out, used, and enjoyed by several other generations to come. Because let's face it, they're not building the walnut and steel stuff anymore. I mean, wouldn't you think that?
Well, I think that there's a lot of people that, you know, maybe they get it, and look, I'm guilty of it. Look, I'll take the fall right now. I'll say it right here in this video. Is guys like me that, you know, I consider myself a bit of a collector, but then there's people that go, well, you're not a collector. Well, the thing is, I think that you can only really be a collector if you know exactly what that gun was like brand new versus what you're actually buying. You have to have something to compare that to, right? Like if I'm looking at a Comblain rifle, or if I'm looking at a Werndahl, or I'm looking at that Kammerlader over there that I brought to you, which Mark repaired my Kammerlader, you guys know that.
Right.
Who has ever actually seen a brand new Kammerlader that hasn't been fired?
Yeah.
Right? Those just don't exist. So what do you have as a basis on condition? Now somebody can go, all right, they look at this rifle and go, wow, this thing's in great shape. All right, you think about the Kammerlader that I brought you and the way it was, the shape it was in before, versus the shape it's in now.
Versus the shape it's going to be, and when we're done with it.
Versus the shape it's going to be. All right, now if I let somebody look at that rifle 50 years from now, are they going to know if it was in that condition from day one?
Absolutely not.
Or if, So the thing is condition, whether it's professionally refurbished or whether it's the way the condition originally was. I mean,
let's figure when it
goes far enough south, it's relevant about the condition.
When that beautiful 1886 color case hardened Winchester was made, I doubt that the guy putting it together on the floor went, golly, I can't wait to see what this thing looks like when it hasn't been taken care of in 140 years. I highly doubt that.
Right.
So we really don't know what one would, yeah, there are examples of them that are pristine, and I'm not even advocating winding them all the way back till they're new. I only take them back till they look like they've been owned by one guy. Let's take, Great Uncle Empty Frats's shotgun or rifle. and put it back out in the field and honor the man, because we now have the internet, we can exchange information, right? I mean, isn't that the whole point, is to allow future generations to enjoy it? So if you say, oh my God, I'm not going to allow the maintenance to be done because I'll ruin its residual collector value, is really signing the thing's death warrant on equipment they're not making anymore.
Yeah,
And they're never going to make.
The value of zero is still the value of zero.
Zero, right.
It's not going to get worth any more by just sitting around and rotting.
Right. Your Kammerlader is worth far more, and we're going to go all the way to reset. And I've got a point, by the way. I've managed to put a definition on Baba. Baba is when you jump from cleaning to taking the finish off a gun and starting over again in one jump with no intermediate steps. That's what I'm talking about. You've got you got Babas, you got Fuds. You recently talked about Fuds there that don't understand what they're doing, and yet, am I going to cut a nearly pristine gun apart and refinish it? No, I'll very, very gently stop it from rusting and redo it. But guess what? That white Parker, we're going to do it because it's a quality side-by-side shotgun, and we need to put that back out in the field killing stuff.
I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a gun show and I've seen a really nice Parker, and I say nice, what used to be a nice Parker in really rough shape, but they still want the pristine money for it.
No.
They always want so much money for those Parkers, but when you look at those Parkers, when they're either cleaned up well or if they're just in really nice shape, they really are nice shotguns.
Right.
So they're worth restoring.
It's a $2,000 to $3,000 gun. Unfortunately, your gun is worth $600 and it's got $1,000 of deferred maintenance in it. It just does. It is what it is. It got used. It's degrees of suck. How far is it? Not how far is it away from being new, but how much of it is left. Let's put some life back in it, get it back out in the field and run it again. I mean, there's a reason, if you ever notice when you feel the side of a shotgun or a rifle, they've left the wood proud, so it can be refinished. That was the intention when the thing was made. It's where the Europeans are. It's one of the few things I agree with the Europeans on, okay, because they know they're not making any more of them, and they tend to take care of stuff a little bit better. I'm sure our British friends are laughing at us. Well, that brown crap coming out from the inside of the stock is not patina anyway.
That's right.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So I'm very passionate about the fact that the really, really good ones should be left really, really good. The decision, we're getting now to the fact that the stuff in private collections probably should never be pulled out, never have its cherry popped. That gun should be left alone now. The burden, I think, is shifting onto the guys that own the higher end stuff to never use them anymore. Go climb down, go grab a lesser one, pay the money to put the life back in it, take it out in the field.
Sure.
And leave your unfired Colt Lightning rifle alone.
Yeah, or you got unfired, jungle carbine in the wrap, or infield in the wrap, or, like a lot of these Martinis that were stored in Cosmoline, and they're still in really great shape.
Leave those alone.
Yeah, it's kind of random to think about, that, you're watching this video now, and it's weird to think that 50, 60, 100 years from now, someone might be watching us and going, well, them guys were right, because sure enough, Uncle Jim Bob passed away, and then we found a rusted out rifle that would have been a great one if he just would have taken the time.
Here's the other thing that scares me, and we see this all the time. We got a shotgun in this shop with a tag on it that said, right barrel discharges when the weapon is closed. We want a quote on what it's going to take to fix that. And I got news for you. That's not coming out of this shop unrepaired. I get a Class A malfunction in this shop. It will be repaired. I don't care. And you're going to pay for it. Or you're not going to get the gun back, or you're going to get the gun back without the firing pins in it. Here's the real issue there. Let's talk about this one. I don't want you to do that. He takes it, gets in a car wreck on the way home. 40 years from now, his nephew inherits now his great uncle's gun, doesn't know about it, drops a live round in it and hurts somebody with it. There is almost a moral responsibility to deal with. So how many of these, I don't want to work on it because it's 3% collectible stuff, have these maintenance issues that might actually hurt somebody later? That's actually something I think that should be considered.
Yeah, or getting down to the degree where, sometimes as a gunsmith, you got to be able to tell somebody, look, man, I understand you want to fix this gun, but it's not worth it may not be worth fixing, or it's so dangerous that maybe, we need to just decommission this thing hanging on the wall. And
I've got an 1100 that was converted by someone from 20 gauge to 410, and they did it wrong, and there's a beautiful longitudinal crack running right through the bolt. I cut the bolt in half. And the guy is furious. I don't care, okay? I can't put that part back out. So when I fill out a ticket, it's clean oil and inspect. And what you're getting is 40 years of my eyeballs looking at a lot of different machines, from atomic submarines all the way up to your gun. And that puts a lot of burden on me. But at the end of the day, all this older stuff needs to be pulled out of the stock line. Look, you don't catch that pit, it blows through. We're going to get to the point here where this stuff's going to start hurting people because the collector crowd said, don't do that. And that's kind of my rub. And I know damn well I'm going to cheese some people off saying that, but that's kind of where I am in the continuum.
You know, and I think that also it comes down to when you start getting into different collector's margins. Like, let's say you got a guy who collects only the primo 95% stuff, you know, where it's new in the wrap, or, you know, something where, like you said, it's obviously unused. But then you've got, like, I would say your average collector, right? Your average collector is a guy like me or any of you guys watching where, you know, I guess what, in previous videos I've mentioned it, like what I call a pattern collector. A pattern collector, and this is just a phrase I coined, but a pattern collector is somebody that goes, all right, let me buy an infield because I think infields are cool. And I don't have to have every different mark. I don't have to have all the different variants, but let me buy a 303 infield so I can say I own an infield. So maybe I'll buy like the nicest version of that I can afford, right? So people kind of collect within their means, like what they can afford, right?
You still should have a conserve.
Exactly. A guy might have like an infield, a Mosin, a Mauser, a Springfield, and then like he may not worry about every single variant of that particular gun, but maybe he just wants a variant to where somebody goes, hey, I've never shot a 03. They can at least go, hey, cool, let's shoot my 03.
Let's shoot an 03.
Right. But and those guns still have to be maintained.
They have to be maintained. They've got to be pulled out of the stocks. You got to look underneath. The very first episode we ever filmed, there was a long Lee laying on this bench. And while we're talking about this long Lee, and they decided to just film it, and thank God it got me into this, I'm noticing that not a single one of the barrel band screws could be undone. And the heads were a little bit messed up, and I'm like, uh-oh, this thing hasn't been out of the stock in a long time. Ethos starts rolling tape, we tear it down, there's rust shankers the size of quarters. It's a $4,500 collectible long Lee. Look, beautiful. We just did a Luger in here. Gorgeous 1937 transitional Luger, right when they transitioned off the strawing. Waffen amps all over it. And we pulled that apart, and when we check all of the oil off of it, it was orange. Okay, on the inside, and it was highly collectible, and it was beautiful, and you bet your sweet Bippy we went ahead and did the maintenance. That's what I'm talking about. Even the nicer stuff needs to have it done. This is a plea for some people here. So we're talking about the collector ethos made sense in the 50s and the 60s. That was 70 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, that was before I was born, which... First class seats on the Ark, guys. I mean, dude, right?
That's right. Shaking hands with Jesus.
Oh my God. You know what I'm saying? And and that's where we're at with it. It's not even, we're not even mad at the individuals. The problem is people are blindly following books that were written in the 60s about how to collect stuff. Back when that A5 was 20 years old.
It's non-conventional wisdom at this point.
It's non-conventional wisdom, and I'm trying to use this platform and this method to try to bring some people around to the way of thinking that, you know, maybe we need to start taking these things apart. And I'm not talking about strip and finish off them. I'm talking about anything. I'm sure as hell not advocating for sanding off unit identification, sanding off, it's like sanding the X off of a Confederate musket. You would never do that because that means that guy was in a battle. Right? You wouldn't do that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about getting rid of that big rust wad that's up underneath the line. You know,
that's right.
That kind of stuff, man.
The moral of the story, guys, is that, you know, it's okay to collect these old school guns, and it's all right to appreciate them for what they are. But I think that we're running into a point in the history of firearms collecting where it's okay to pull something apart and clean on it. I know lots of you guys probably do it. You know, you go to a gun show, you find a neat gun, you go, wow, this is awesome. You take it home. If you're anything like me, what's the first thing you do? I pull it apart. I want to check under the wood line for rust. I want to check for rusted screws. I always pull them apart to the smallest piece. And that's an important thing to do, is always check your stuff, maintain your stuff.
We're beginning to incur I want to say moral, but we're beginning to incur an obligation where we almost now have to do it.
To preserve
We're
these
now
guns.
getting to the point where even most of the World War II vets are gone, most of the Korea guys are gone, and there used to be a collective wisdom inside society that allowed us to do that. And we're hurting. When I'm the tall blade of grass, we're hurting, okay? So what's going to happen in another generation when there's nobody that knows how to do this stuff anymore? We've got to do it. It's got to kind of be done now, and then we're going to pass on for another 3-4 generations, and then we're just going to, not push the problem up the line, but reset the problem to zero, and then allow the problem to resurface again in another 100 years when these guns haven't been made in 240 years.
I think it's important, like, with our YouTube channel, what we've always tried to do, and I know Mark is doing a great job of it with the Anvil Gunsmithing channel and everything, is that, we want to promote the preservation of these, basically what in many cases you can consider artifacts at this point, historical artifacts. They have to be preserved so that they can continue to be enjoyed. It's not like an Indian arrowhead that just sits in a counter and you're like, okay, cool, it's an arrowhead. You're not going to take that arrowhead and tie it onto a shaft and then try to shoot something with it. Well, maybe some of you will. But it's not the same as, some random artifact that is not intended to be used anymore. It's just neat because it's intrinsically old and it's historical. These are items that are mechanical. They can still be used. They can still function. They can still work. So imagine a car, right? Imagine 150 years from now or whatever, right? And somebody's got a 1965 Mustang. 150 years from now.
Don't replace the tires on it. You might reduce its collector value. You see where we're at with that.
Can you think of a 1965 Mustang 150 years from now still working?
Hell, I had a hard time conceiving one in 1969 still working.
Well,
okay,
but the point is though, is that the mechanical items that can be, restored and used, and it can still be, have some functionality to them, is a very special thing. There's not many things like that where you can go, all right, here's something from 150, 200, 250, 300 years ago that can still be used.
The word we're looking for here is stewardship, and there is a stewardship component to owning collectible equipment out here not up in the collectorverse, and we're talking
people that use them.
Right, people that use them. There's a stewardship angle that I'm really, really advocating for, that in order to be a good steward of this equipment, you're going to have to get up to speed on how to take care of it, or pass it on to somebody else that does. And that's not necessarily me. My whole thing has been to try to show people how to do it. It can be done, because I'm expensive to have me do it, but I'm expensive for a reason, and there are people that will actually pay it. But not everybody can afford that. This isn't a money thing, it's a stewardship thing. And you should not pass on maintenance problems. You shouldn't pass on active decay. You shouldn't pass on other things just because you might ruin its value. Its value is what it is, and constant hours you had to work to earn it.
And the value is literally perceived, not literal.
Absolutely.
Right, and I guess that's the whole crux of the gripe, is that it's a perceived value that collectors have on their gun when they don't realize that it's actually a status of decay that they're allowing to occur.
Right, that's what it is. It's how screwed up isn't my gun anymore. It's a bad way of thinking. And that's just where I'm at with that.
Well, words for the wise.
Yeah,
something to consider for sure,
Absolutely.
Guys, thanks for tuning in to today's Gun Gripe. Mark, thanks for your time.
Outstanding.
I know that we
Great
literally
we're
commandeering your shop today on a day when you're actually working. So
Gladly.
We're keeping poor Mark from working here, so we need to get him back to letting him restore some of these valuable guns that he's messing with here. But we thought it'd be a fun Gun Gripe. We were kind of talking about it, and it just segued into a Gun Gripe episode. So thanks for hanging out with us here on today's Gun Gripe. We appreciate all of our viewers. Guys, all of you who support us on Patreon, purchasing man cans, and yes, absolutely, Mark's guys, he's got a Patreon, and his Patreon supporters are big help for what he does.
They are just the best.
But all of you guys who purchase merch over on the website, all those funds go right back into supporting our channel. We really appreciate you guys.
And thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Guys, have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Outstanding.